The orbital bombardment had ended 3 hours ago, but the smoke still rose from the crater like a funeral pyre reaching toward the twin suns of Valoria Prime. Elara descended the unstable rubble slope with practiced caution, her combat boots finding purchase on scorched metal and shattered stone. The settlement that had stood here yesterday was gone, vaporized by the Krelthian war fleet that had already moved on to its next target. She shouldn't have been here. Command had designated this sector as total loss and ordered all units to fall back to the defensive line. But Elara had learned long ago that military classifications rarely accounted for the stubborn persistence of life. Where there was destruction, there were survivors. And where there were survivors, there was hope. The air tasted of ash and ozone. Her helmet's filtration system hummed steadily, scrubbing toxins from each breath. Through the smoky haze, her scanner detected faint biosigns, small, weak, clustered together in what remained of a collapsed structure near the crater's center. Elara picked her way through the debris field, past the twisted skeletons of homes and shops, past objects she couldn't identify and others she wished she couldn't. The Valorians had been peaceful merchants, their settlement a trading hub where a dozen species came to exchange goods and stories. Now it was a graveyard. The biosigns grew stronger as she approached a half-collapsed dwelling. Its walls had been blown outward, but a section of the foundation remained intact, creating a small pocket of shelter beneath the rubble. Elara knelt at the opening, playing her helmet lamp into the darkness. 2 pairs of eyes reflected the light back at her, large, luminous, and filled with terror. "Easy," Elara said softly, though she knew they probably couldn't understand Standard. "Easy now." The cubs were Valorian, no more than juveniles by their size. Their fur, normally a lustrous silver according to the species profiles she'd studied, was matted with dust and streaked with soot. They huddled together in the shadows, small bodies pressed so tightly together they seemed like a single frightened creature. The smaller one, whom Elara would later learn was called Kiri, had her face buried against her sibling's chest, her tiny paws clutching desperately at fur. Both cubs were whimpering, a high-pitched keening sound that cut through Elara's heart like a blade. She'd heard that sound before, on other worlds, in other wars. It was the universal language of children who'd lost everything. "Your mother," Elara said gently, though speaking to herself as much as to them. "You're calling for your mother." She checked her scanner again. No other biosigns in the immediate area. No adult Valorians. No parents rushing to protect their young. Either they'd been killed in the bombardment, or they'd been evacuated, and these two had been missed in the chaos. Either way, these cubs were alone. Elara considered her options. Command wanted all personnel back at the line within the hour. Every second she delayed put her at risk of being caught in the next attack wave. The logical choice, the military choice, was to report the survivors to the recovery teams and move on. But humans, Elara had learned during her years in this endless war, had never been particularly good at making the logical choice. She deactivated her helmet's external speakers and switched to her squad channel. "Chen, this is Elara. I've got 2 juvenile Valorians in need of immediate extraction. Grid reference Delta 79er. 8. Static crackled, then Chen's voice came through. "Elara, you were supposed to be wheels up 5 minutes ago." "Command is..." "I know what command is," Elara interrupted, "but I'm not leaving them." A pause. Then, "You're going to get yourself killed one of these days with this hero complex." "Probably," Elara agreed. "Can you divert a transport or not?" Another pause, longer this time. "Give me 10 minutes. And Elara, don't make me regret this." "Wouldn't dream of it," she said, cutting the channel. The cubs had watched this exchange with wide, uncomprehending eyes. Elara began carefully clearing debris from the entrance to their shelter, moving slowly and deliberately so as not to startle them further. The larger cub male, she thought, based on the darker fur patterns, pulled his sibling closer, bearing tiny fangs in what might have been a threat if it weren't so heartbreakingly futile. "I know," Elara said softly. "I know you're scared. I know you don't know who I am or what I want." She paused in her work, meeting the cub's eyes. "But I promise you this, I'm not going to hurt you, and I'm not going to leave you here." She didn't know if they understood her words, but something in her tone must have resonated. The larger cub's defensive posture eased slightly, though he kept his sibling protected behind him. Elara continued clearing the entrance, her movements careful and measured. Humans, she reflected, had earned a particular reputation in this galactic war. Other species saw them as reckless, aggressive, sometimes frighteningly violent. They weren't wrong, humanity had proven itself capable of terrible things when pushed, but they'd also proven something else, something that confused and sometimes troubled their alien allies. Humans had this inexplicable compulsion to protect, to save, to preserve life even when it made no tactical sense. Even when it endangered themselves. The council psychologists had theories about it: evolutionary remnants from Earth's harsh prehistory, cultural conditioning, even suggestions of neurological quirks unique to human brain chemistry. Elara didn't care about the theories. She only knew that she couldn't walk away from those whimpering cubs any more than she could stop breathing. The entrance was clear now. Elara extended her hand slowly into the shelter. "Come on," she said. "I know it's scary, but you have to trust me." For a long moment, nothing happened. The cubs simply stared at her outstretched hand, frozen in their fear and uncertainty. Then Kiri, the smaller cub, did something that would stay with Elara for the rest of her life. She reached out one tiny, trembling paw and placed it in Elara's palm. The larger cub chittered in alarm, but Kiri held firm, her luminous eyes locked on Elara's face. In that moment, across the vast gulf of species and language and understanding, something connected. Trust, fragile and desperate, but real. "That's it," Elara whispered. "That's it, brave one." She gently pulled Kiri from the shelter, then reached back for her sibling. The male cub hesitated only a second before following, unwilling to be separated from his sister. Elara gathered both cubs against her chest, feeling their rapid heartbeats against her armor. They were so small, so vulnerable. How many others like them were scattered across the war zones, orphaned and terrified? Overhead, she heard the distinctive whine of a transport's engines. Chen had come through. As Elara climbed out of the crater with the cubs secure in her arms, she thought about the question that haunted every human soldier in this war. What were they really fighting for? Territory? Resources? Political ideology? No. Looking down at Kiri's small face pressed against her chest, at the way the cubs clung to each other even now, Elara knew the answer. They were fighting for this, for the chance to pull life from the ashes, to say, "Not today," to the darkness, to carry hope out of the ruins. The transport touched down in a cloud of dust. As Elara walked toward it, the smoke from the crater still billowing behind her, she heard Kiri make a sound. Not a whimper this time, but something softer, almost peaceful. Humanity might be reckless, violent, and impossibly stubborn, but they were also this. The species that would walk into fire and emerge carrying children who weren't even their own. The galaxy didn't always understand humans, but these two cubs, safe now in Elara's arms, understood enough.